Gun control, one of the most controversial debates in the 21st century. The Second Amendment's legitimacy is constantly under hot pursuit, and whether or not it truly guarantees the individual right to bear arms to U.S. citizens is a very large disagreement in our society today. There are many reasons to why each side either opposes or supports gun control, and each side has counter-arguments to each other's arguments, making a solution or agreement very difficult to attain. Limitations and restrictions on which type of guns and ammo people can obtain are just the start of the gun control policy in America. From practical self-defense to the issue of school shootings, each side has different perspectives and solutions to the problems involving gun use. Gun control has been and will most likely continue to be a leading controversy that sets the citizens of America apart in our political views. It is a match that may never meet its end. The Second Amendment, often referred to as the right to bear arms, is one of the 10 amendments to the U.S. Constitution that form the Bill of Rights. This amendment has struck a long-lasting debate over gun control in our country. The Second Amendment reads in full, "A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed." Over the years, there have been many debates on this amendment and what it really entails. Some debates even made it all the way to the Supreme Court. District of Columbia versus Heller and McDonald versus Chicago were just a couple of the Supreme Court cases involving the Second Amendment. Since the ratification of the amendment, there have been many restrictions and different interpretations imposed onto it. These limitations include things like bans on possessions of firearms by felons and the mentally ill, bans on carrying arms in schools and government buildings, restrictions on gun sales, bans on the concealed carrying of weapons, and generally bans on weapons not typically possessed by law-abiding citizens for lawful purposes. The fight over gun control is far from being over, and more policy changes are bound to happen. Some arguments that oppose the controlling and restricting of gun possession in the United States include viewpoints such as being able to defend ourselves from tyranny within our government. Access to weapons by the military is far greater than the access to the citizens of America, and therefore we have no means of defending ourselves if a tyrannical rule came about. Self-defense in response to crime and violence is another argument against gun control. If the law-abiding citizens don't have the means to protect themselves, they will become easy prey and targets for criminals and lawbreakers who obtain guns illegally. Recreational use of guns is also an argument. To some, hunting and shooting is a way of life and a right given to them in the Bill of Rights. Some arguments that support the gun control in the United States include viewpoints such as societal needs for reasonable gun control. A Harvard school study revealed that Americans feel less safe when people in their community are carrying guns, and U.S. citizens have the right to reasonable protection from guns. High rate of gun-related crime is another argument in support of gun control. In the U.S., more than 30,000 people die each year from gunshot wounds. The majority of homicides and half the number of suicides involve the use of guns. The opinion that the Constitution does not provide for individual gun rights is also an argument. A majority of constitutional scholars believe that the Second Amendment does not address the private gun ownership rights, but only guarantees the right to states to maintain militias. As you can see, the many differing viewpoints and arguments of the different sides make it very hard to please anyone and make enacting and repealing laws a very difficult process.
Just because the Supreme Court on June 26, 2008 ruled that Americans are eligible to carry arms, the debate is not over. Americans are still trying to figure out what guns should be allowed and what guns should be banned, who should have one and who should not. But let's go ahead and take a look at the state of Texas gun laws. Now, if you have a criminal record or are at the age 17 and under, you may be disqualified from purchasing a gun. Now, if you don't meet any of those disqualifying factors as listed in Texas Penal Code 46, according to the National Rifle Association Institute for Legislative Affairs in Texas, you can purchase what is called a long gun, an automatic or a semi-automatic rifle, along with ammunition at the age of 18. Now, you do not need a permit to purchase it. You do not have to register the firearm. You do not need a license to purchase it. And you do not need a permit to carry the long guns like the AR-15s or the AK-47s. But now, if you purchase your gun from a licensed gun dealer, they are required to perform a background check. If you purchase your gun from an unlicensed dealer illegally or on the internet or at one of the infamous gun shows, they may not be required to to run a background check. And of course, if you purchase it illegally, then no one is going to run a background check. Now, in the state of Texas, if you want to purchase what they call the short guns and you want to carry that gun, on you or with you, then you have to be age 21 and you must have a license to carry. Now, the Texas Department of Public Safety lists the requirements needed to get a license. You must take a 4 to 6 hour class. You have to have a background check done. You have to have your fingerprints taken, and you have to pay a $40 fee to apply for the license. And of course, they'll run all your information and tell you whether you're approved or not. And of course, either way, you'll get a letter in the mail from the Texas Department of Public Safety. Now, there have been numerous federal gun laws passed regarding this issue. In 1994, Democrat President Bill Clinton passed the 1994 assault weapons ban. Now, that ban was for 10 years, and it banned the manufacture, transfer, or possession of semi-automatic rifles and pistols for at least 10 years. And of course, the ban wasn't airtight. Manufacturers got around it. They made similar guns and weapons that did not fit the description of the guns on the ban list. So people always find a way around, laws. Now, in 2004, we had Republican President George Bush. Now, he did allow the ban to expire, and I would say probably because we had just had the 2011 terrorist attack on the Pentagon and the World Trade Center, and over 3,000 people had lost their lives, and national security was at an all-time high. However, after a school shooting in 2007 at Virginia Tech, he did come back and produce what is called the National Instant Criminal Background Check System Act of 2007, and it was meant to track and keep people with mental illnesses from possessing handguns. And now, after another school shooting in 2012, we had a new president, Democratic President Barack Obama. He tried to strengthen that law, so where the Social Security Administration could report to that National Instant Background Check System people who were deemed disabled due to mental illnesses. He wanted that information to go to that system in hopes that it would stop them from, purchasing handguns. However, that bill took about 4 years to pass, and it did not pass until December 2016, his last year in office. And of course, our current president, President Donald Trump, once he got in office, he repealed it. So now we're back to arguing over people with mental illnesses and guns. Now, most Republicans would say that guns are not the issue, it's the people. And the Democrats would say no, assault weapons just need to be banned. We need stronger enforcement of our background check laws. And that we need them on all gun sales as well. Now, as we take a look at violence in America and around the world, maybe just both political parties are correct. Thanks. Have a good day.
School shootings can be one of the hardest things to ever be in, or to ever have to witness, or to even hear about it on the news. See, the thing about school shootings, when one happens, people will always tend to point fingers toward the weapon. See, I'm not here to persuade you in any way, but to inform you of the types of weapons used during a mass shooting or a school shooting, and the comparisons of violence between here in the United States and around the world. Even before the gun ban expired in 2004, school shootings were on the rise. Since 2000, we had nearly 188 school shootings in America, which could estimate to about 1 every 3 weeks for the past 18 years. Since the beginning of this year, we have had a total of 19 school shootings, growing by the number every time a person decides to do this heinous act. In the history of all school shootings in the United States, we have had 170 lives taken, 191 injured, and of all those shooters, 12 have survived to face the consequences, and the other 8 have died by self-inflicted wounds. In the history of all shootings, school, restaurants, mass shootings, there have been 1,070 lives taken and 292 weapons used. I have a picture of a few common used weapons. This first one is an AR-15. This was used in Aurora, Colorado, in the theater shooting, in Columbine, in Las Vegas recently, and then also recently in Florida for that high school. Another one commonly used is a 9mm pistol and a 12-gauge shotgun. Other weapons are revolvers, small handguns, easy access, easy to reload. Reason why shooters always aim for those. Now, the oldest person to ever be killed in a shooting, her name was Louise DeClaire, of 98 years old. And the youngest, sad to hear this, but were 2-month-old babies, still in their mother's womb. She was gunned down in a McDonald's in Springs, Texas. It's so sad to hear about that. See, these numbers were only taken, the numbers I have collected, have only been taken between the shooting in Austin. If you don't know about the shooting in Austin, this guy got into a clock tower with a sniper rifle on one Sunday afternoon and decided just to shoot people that were walking by. Those numbers were collected from that time all the way to a Florida shooting in the high school. So it's really sad. A few years ago, a survey was done by Academy of Critical Incident on violence around the world. Violence includes shootings and anything that let a person take another person's life. Between the years of 2000 and 2010, there were a total of 57 mass incidents in 36 countries. But half of those happened here in the United States. There were more violence in our schools than any other school in the world, actually. Just to name a few countries, we have Brazil, China, England, Russia, Yemen, Germany, Guatemala, Yemen. But the list would go on and go on. There's a paragraph in the link I will leave down below. I got this out of theirs. So, in the vast majority of U.S. killings, perpetrators use guns. Comparing into China, China had 10 mass killings, but none of those involved a gun. They've involved swords, cleavers, scissors. Germany had 3 mass shootings with guns, and Finland only had 2. And 13 of the other countries as well had incidents, but these persons did die, but the person that killed them did not use a gun. And mass shooting in the school setting in Europe has drastically dropped in the last decade. But here in the United States, in the past 20 years, it has increased by so much. It has actually doubled from around the world and from the numbers we used to have. So let's compare those numbers around the world to ours, okay? So the United States is known to nearly have half the guns owned here in the world, personally, other than military having weapons and law enforcement. Our civilians, our people, are known to have more stockpiled than anybody else in the world. At a 48% higher rate than anybody else. The U.S. makes up less than 5% of the population around the world, but we have 31% of the mass shootings. These countries that I'm about to say, these guys are close enough to our percentage than any other countries. So the Philippines, Russia, Yemen, and France are close enough to our percentages to school shootings. But like I said, ours is 31%, and theirs are not even in the teens. So over the last 20 years, it's been rapidly growing and growing. Gun homicides have gone up 25.2 times higher in the United States than any country in the West. The only nations that actually beat us in this for gun homicides are our neighbors down in the South, our Central America and South America. The reason why their numbers are so high is because, well, they have a lot of illegal guns and they use them for purposes, for drug trafficking, stuff like that. Another fun fact, out of the school shootings, 167 mass shooters' weapons were obtained legally, 49 were obtained illegally, and the other 77 weapons, we don't know where they came from, so they were not registered or nothing. In closing, in the modern day, today, 41 out of our 50 states, including our District of Columbia, sorry about that, we can say have been affected by a shooting at least once. Shootings are commonly remembered in schools and churches. The reason why is because we're supposed to feel safe there. And when it happens at a church or a school, it really affects us because either we have a loved one there or we're there personally. But those only make a small portion of shootings all around the United States. Most common places to actually see a shooting that we really don't hear about are restaurants, bars, shopping centers, malls, place of employments. The reason why we don't hear about those as much is because the news doesn't want to blow it up, just like schools or churches, because, like I said, we feel safer at these places. One of the states that have been affected so much by this has been California. California has out of control gun violence than any other state. The Supreme Court has also ruled individuals can carry. Each state has passed separate gun laws than the national laws. Even our presidents have signed bills into law to ban some guns, to keep guns out of hands of felons and people with mental illness. See, as we hear stories of shootings, horrific shootings, in the news about the infamous how and why, I would encourage each and every one of you to learn what laws are already here in effect and ones that are coming in. So next time you guys go to vote, pretty sure there's going to be something about this. You guys do a little bit of research. It was really fun doing this type of research. I hope you guys gained some type of knowledge here. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. And I will leave some links down below so you guys can actually research some more stuff and look at the website I used. It's really interesting. So hope you guys enjoyed it.